And down here in the bottom right-hand side, representing Team Liquid, a fiery Terran player, it is uThermal.
That's right.
I like the way DeMuslim was describing describing the energy there. Kind of saying, you know, uThermal sometimes thrives on his anger a little bit. And I got to agree. I think if there's one player out there who really, I think when he's at his best, is embracing the dark side of the Force and just kind of accepting the hatred and utilizing it, it is definitely uThermal. He can find a rhythm sometimes, and he just gets explosive in his play. Some of the best Marine focus fire, some of the most dynamite multitasking and aggressive play out there. So
yeah,
would love to see him play some bio here, but you know, Mech is good at the moment as well, as they were saying. Either way, I think we'll get an action-packed game.
Certainly. I remember back in the day when, you know, uThermal and Snoot rivalry was starting kicking in into teammates, but also kind of rivals at the same time. They would hit each other a lot in a lot of the big Premier tournaments. uThermal kind of reminded me of who Time is considered to be right now, like a very, very great bio-controlled Terran, splits unprecedented, multitasking unmatched. It was just so sick to see a Terran, you know, a foreign Terran play that well, and he is actually, I believe, the last non-Korean Terran champion of a Premiership event from the IEM way back in the day.
Wow, from IEM China, right?
So,
back in
yeah.
2016.
A bit of time between drinks for the foreign Terrans.
Special's been
a minute.
getting close, but yeah, hasn't quite managed to get there despite so many top 4 performances. And of course, uThermal would love a chance to get back deep. He's had so many near misses here at Katowice. It's a tournament where he has for the last several years, though, always made it through to the group stage. So it would be a big disappointment if he doesn't make it through today.
Certainly. Ooh, RagnaroK with the spicy early Roach Warren here. Looking to be cheeky. This is the Reaper needs to see this, and RagnaroK needs to stop it from being scouted.
Yeah, this is going to be hit very, very early. I mean, it's such a fast Roach Warren.
It almost looks like a bamboozle when it's this early. Like, you want the Reaper to go scout it so that the Terran overreacts and then you just drone. But it's like just not a good thing. Like, it's not a good strategy to do, though. So
the way I think this is going to work is it's going to be a 5 or 6 Roaches, a few of which will turn into Ravagers. I think they'll try to sneak past the Reaper. I think he's hoping the Reaper will be occupied, blocking the 3rd base or something like that. And the idea is simply to put on some pressure as early as possible and drone hard behind it. But I don't expect any more Roaches. I really do think it'll just be drones there. Remember, no Ling speed started up. You cannot reinforce with speedlings here.
Well,
7 Roaches, wow.
I mean, as uThermal, you've got to be concerned here. It's 10 minutes past 3, 10 seconds past 3 here, and there's not a 3rd base to be seen for the Terran. So this is very, very concerning. You've got to know that the Zerg's up to something on 2 base here. So the Reaper is there trying to body block it, and RagnaroK showing signs of wanting to get it. And yeah, I mean, he is still droning, so he is going to get it.
Oh, this
but there
is too
are
good to be
Roaches
true.
going through the middle.
Yeah, this is too good to be true. I mean, when you've blocked it for that long, you've got to ask yourself why you've been allowed to do so. And he does spot these units coming. He's got to get a Banshee out as quickly as possible at home. It does start up. The Hellions are going to try to dart past the Roaches. He wants to punish. He says, okay, I'll take some damage at home, but you know what? I'm going to inflict some damage on your worker line as well, and your economy is already quite small.
So all it's going to be here for uThermal, the name of the game here is to mitigate the damage, just try and take as little as possible while buying time for that Banshee. If RagnaroK can get on top of this starport, maybe pick off Cloak or something like that, that'd be a nice pick-off. He's only got the 1 Ravager in this push at the moment, but a lot of Roaches, which are really powering through that wall in.
Indeed, doing some good damage. The Hellions have pulled back. No SCVs really falling just yet, though. That first Banshee finally about to hit the field, but the Roaches and Ravagers in the mineral line. And a good call by uThermal. He says, evacuate, don't stand and fight. That's what they want. They want to have SCVs easily focus downable. And I like the counterattacks as well, adding 1 more drone to the kill tally. The Roaches moving their way back down to the natural with those SCVs are a ton of mining time. Of course, has already been lost by uThermal, and he's going to lose some more.
That's right. I mean, he is losing quite a few SCVs here, but it is playable as long as he doesn't lose too many more here. The Banshee is going to get rid of these Roaches eventually. The SCV is still mining. These 4 Hellions cycling around, making sure that the 3rd's not going to be saturated, at least not without a fight. And down go the Roaches for RagnaroK. So uThermal down 7 workers at the moment. Down, but certainly playable. The denied mining time hurting quite a bit as well.
Yeah, of course, losing those supply depots on top of the ramp means he does butt into his supply cap just a tiny bit here. But what's there to defend on the backstab? A few slow Zerglings, a couple Queens, and there's a good Hellion count out, a few Banshees as well.
Yeah, these drones are dead.
Yeah, you're definitely not allowed to drone and micro and mine minerals, sorry, from that third base just yet.
Cloak Banshee rolling on in here to help out with the Queens. There's already a Spore Crawler for RagnaroK, which burrows very quickly, offering detection on that Banshee so that the Queens can pick it off. Then lots more Hellions rolling in here. Once again, just slow links for RagnaroK. He's starting to squeeze out a few more Roaches as well. And uThermal using the Banshees to zone back. That Spore Crawler needs to be moved again. Got to help out with the Banshees.
Wow, those Banshees just holding that area between the bases. They say, okay, you can go up to the third. We're going to micro around. uThermal trying to get a lot of damage out of this. He's got to catch up.
Kills a Queen with the Hellions. Gets 6 drones as well. These Banshees really paying for themselves. They're still pretty healthy as well. And killing Roaches.
Yeah, this is awesome damage from uThermal. Using those tech units that he had out, he had an economic disadvantage, so he had to do something, and this is indeed going to be it. The Banshees up there. Oh, I mean, those Queens so deep in the red, so tempting.
Oh, just get the Queens just like that, and now it's just 2 Banshees and a world of trouble here for RagnaroK. He's left with not any defense at all.
This was really sloppy from RagnaroK. He didn't need to get over to this third base straight away. I do think he should have been more patient and moved this Spore Crawler over. Now he moves the Spore Crawler over to this middle ground. But things have already gone so far off from what he wanted to be happening this game. You know, when you're pulling drones against Hellions, it's not a good sign.
Yeah, this counterattack's been absolutely devastating for RagnaroK. I don't even know how else to describe it. uThermal looked like he took a bit of damage there. He was certainly down against RagnaroK, but RagnaroK caught without any defenses. Great ring around the rosy there with a Hellion, which eventually goes down. But he's bleeding out every single drop of damage he can get out of these units. A brilliant counterplay from uThermal.
Yeah, that's just awesome to see. And uThermal double eBay, 4 more barracks on the way at home. The 3rd command center already moving down to location, and he's got a tank sieged on the high ground for safety. A fantastic follow-up, and works his way back in despite being way behind on the economy in the start of that game. Now, as much as that was incredible damage, hats off for RagnaroK for just continuing drone production and somehow still having a 10-worker lead at the end of that. He just lost so many units, he lost so many Queens, and yet he's even rebuilt his Queen count to a decent number. His macro did not miss a beat in the middle of that.
Yeah, I mean, the Queen count getting back up there, the drone count getting back up there. With the way that works, though, you're putting a lot of resources into replenishing those drones, so things like your upgrades and your tech are just really not impressive. Bailing Nest just about to finish up. Double Evo still not done here, with 1-1 already on the way for the Terran. And I saw uThermal's main earlier. He's got 5 barracks' worth of production, Pig. There is going to be a big swell in army for the Terran very soon.
Yeah, 1-1 just now starting with that Baneling speed. Very important to get out Baneling speed. It is one of the most impactful upgrades in this matchup against Bio. The ability to close the distance with those Marines, get on top of them, and at the same time dislodge any of those tanks or Widow Mines that are sieged up with them. Gonna go for the 4th base on the northern side as far back as possible, despite it being a little bit exposed by the bridges in front of it. And RagnaroK gonna start to set up a little bit of map control with some of those Zergling spotters.
Smorphing his Banelings here defensively, knowing that around about now is when the Terran is going to try and do something on the map, and he's dead on correct here as uThermal cycles down the right side. His patrolling Ling spots it, so RagnaroK consolidates his forces. He's got some Ravages, he's got some Banelings here. His army looks all right, like the composition looks good, but does he have enough? Not a lot of creep spread down here at all yet.
Only 1 tank, but there's 3 Ravagers. Very dangerous, of course. The corrosive bile can be massive there. Ling's already looking for the backstab as well. They want to come around behind. They're going to flank this.
He's tank's quite exposed.
Ooh, he's gone in on the left-hand side, I think, with a drop at the same time. That's hitting the natural. Maybe it was the Banshees from earlier. Here we go, the Ling's coming in, but the Marines are there. Ooh, good. Wrong.
Yeah, getting a couple drones. Very nice. 1-1 done for these Marines. RagnaroK going to try and come from both sides here. The Marines are going to try and escape, and they're going to get the medevacs and get out of there, letting the tanks take the brunt of the damage there from the Zerg, keeping all the Marines alive as they are basically the unit that he has put into all his upgrade and investment into. He's got 2-2 on the way here, and RagnaroK with a pretty fast hive considering the start of this game, and a very nice Baneling connection. Tons of Marines went down.
Well worth it, though, I think, for uThermal to be putting that micro into this Banshee. It's got 9 more worker kills. It's keeping that worker count very close, and barracks 6, 7, and 8 are on the way. They're almost finished. 2-2 started. We are going to see a large, never-ending wave of bio coming across this map. Now, remember, uThermal has given up 2 of his early siege tanks. He's playing 1 factory into 8 barracks. This is a very aggressive style. It does not do well once you are up against Ultralisks. And with the fast hive that's already almost finished, uThermal has a narrow window of time where his 2-2 is done and the Zerg doesn't have the Ultralisks just yet. He has to make stuff happen in that time, and uThermal, the momentum master that he is, he's not even waiting to add tech labs or reactors on those last barracks. It's just pure extra marine production. That tells me he knows that he wants to hit really hard across this map.
And Bio is his bread and butter here, getting those Marines on forward. RagnaroK bringing in the rest of the Banelings. uThermal will let the pick up and get out of there. Nice control there from uThermal. But when it's going to get scary for RagnaroK is when uThermal is hitting at 2 places at once, which is something he's extremely good at. And RagnaroK's army, it is powerful when it's together and not very powerful when it's split up, which he will need to do when there's 2 drops coming in from 2 spots. That natural could be wide open here as uThermal moves through the left side of the map. This side actually getting cleaned up quite a bit, so the right side maybe not a concern for RagnaroK at the moment.
uThermal here, he's trying to tax and just wear down RagnaroK with these drops. The double drop being very useful, but it is now time, I think, to start moving out for uThermal. He's building missile turrets. I think he thinks there might be Mutalisks coming, but it's actually, I think, definitely something where that hive tech is beginning to get a bit scary. The 2-2 slowly working for RagnaroK, getting closer to halfway. The adrenal gland starting up. Viper's now out and consuming energy off those buildings. uThermal's got a gigantic army. He has a monstrous marine count. This push has got to do something.
I feel like it might though, man. Like RagnaroK's gone in a hive, but we haven't seen an Ultra Cavern just yet, and he made a couple Vipers, maybe expecting more tanks. But like you mentioned earlier, there's only 1 factory worth of tank production. uThermal's putting his eggs into the bio basket here, something that Vipers are really not that good against. Yes, you can Blinding Cloud and mess up the micro a little bit, but I mean, what are you going to yoink here? A medevac? One of those 3 tanks?
Yeah, Parasitic Bomb and the medevacs, not bad to wear them down in the long run. But right now, right here, it's not going to do that much. And look at that, those Marines just standing in position right there. The 4th base mineral line has already been evacuated. uThermal's push moving forwards on this right-hand side. That's a big, massive Banelings. But the Marine firepower is so deadly here.
And he's got a big pre-spread of a ton of bio units as well. RagnaroK's angle trying to pick off a 3rd base, but the walling is good. Sensor Tower for uThermal means he can react very quickly. That 5th base on the high ground for RagnaroK went down. This 4th here is now in the sights of the Terran. This ball of bio trying to bait those units and get in range of those tanks. He's got a bit of a spread of tanks, not that many, but there's so many Marines here with this push.
Nice Blinding Clouds coming down to start off, but those Marines are great Blinding Cloud on the back as well. A beautiful flank of Zerglings coming in from all sides. That was about as perfect an engage as RagnaroK could take.
So much for doubting Blinding Clouds against Bio. It actually messed with the Marines quite a bit there. They're trying to A-move, they're trying to stutter step, but they're move commanding basically through Blinding Clouds into Banelings and Lings. And still no add-ons on these barracks either, so just going to be pure Marine here with tank from uThermal with 3-3 on the way. There's that Ultra Cavern, so that clock is ticking here for the Dutch Terran.
Happy to see he's paused medevac production for now. uThermal has a ridiculous medevac count in this game.
Yeah.
This is one of his things. He always talks about how sometimes he gets a bit excited and builds about 25 medevacs as has no supply left for his army. Instead, this time, pausing right where he wants to on 13 medevacs. It's on the heavier side, but still a good number. He has still got a lot of that bio production. Tons of Marauders being added into the mix.
Yeah.
5th Command Center on the way as well.
Would love to see those extra barracks. Nice target fire, by the way. So I'd say would love to see those extra barracks drop some tech labs, and they have. There we go. Great move from uThermal to get that Marauder count up and high. That's going to be his only chance, really, of taking a dead-on fight against the Ultralists of RagnaroK, which are being thrown in. A pure melee army here of RagnaroK. Maybe there's some Ravagers remaining, but it's mainly Ling Bane Ultra against the ground pound army of uThermal. But he is starting to make some of those scary air units for Tier 3 Zerg. The Liberator on the way here.
Only a couple for now, but they are so integral, as you said. And Ultralisks can sweep this away pretty quickly. We're going to dive straight on in-game. Ultras are about to hit the field. Chitinous Plating still about a minute away. uThermal needs to keep trading. He needs to keep denying bases. He's got to keep RagnaroK small because we don't see ghosts. We don't see multiple starports. We don't see range liberators. uThermal doesn't have any of the super late game tools. He's got skirmish power. He's got mobility. But he's still going to struggle in a pitched battle. If those Ultras can flank him, if those Banes can find the Marines, we could see his supply drop drastically, very, very quickly in a fight.
Yeah, he's got that fast, backstabby kind of army, but until he has like either a high Marauder count or a high Liberator count or a high Ghost count, taking a straight-up fight is going to be very, very tough. He's also gotten this far without any Widow Mines, by the way, to deal with this much Ling Bane, which is impressive in itself. Fusion Core on the way. He starts a bunch of command centers as well, because it's late game. He's maxed out. Time to spend that Mineral Bank on a little bit of CC power so he can get those scans for days.
Yeah, nice drops coming in there. Is going to try and do some damage.
Oh, this hatchery's so low.
Ooh.
Wow,
Nice
big off there.
Damage from earlier on in this game. He's going to start pushing in and branching into these bases as well. The Banelings, the Ultras starting to come forward. The Vipers dropping some Blinding Clouds, a couple of Ducks on the libs. The Marines on the right-hand side getting a bit broken by the Blinding Clouds.
The Marines and Marauders stuck on the right side. They can't escape. The Ultras trying to close that distance. The Liberators trying to help out the Bio here so they can win the fight. Stacked up Biles there on those Liberators, taking them down. RagnaroK takes a pretty good engagement there. Yes, he lost a few Ultras, but uThermal lost his whole front line.
Yeah, uThermal there losing a ton of supply. The Ultras able to close their way in. No anti-Ultralisk power. It really is an almost pure Bioforce. As I said, not only do we not have multiple starports, there's no ghosts, and there's only one factory building tanks one at a time. There's no way to quickly reproduce that splash damage to deal with the Ling Bane, not to mention tanks nowhere near as good as something like Widow Mines for dealing with mass Ling Bane. This is an odd position for uThermal to find himself in.
What's also slightly odd here, Big, is that we're not seeing advanced ballistics here, we're seeing Yamato. So uThermal may be looking to go to BCs, maybe a misclick, but I doubt that. Banelings rolling in for the right side, killing a few of them there with the Marines and the Marauders on the low ground. Trying to get those Ultras split up, the attention of RagnaroK split up. That Planetary gets busted down from Zerg power here.
By pure Zerglings as well, he was just too slow to repair. If he got that repair up, he would have been able to limit that Zergling surface area. But instead, we saw RagnaroK Slings take out the Planetary. Great pullback micro here for uThermal. He's bleeding out a lot of units as RagnaroK. That last Ultra goes down. This little bastion of Terran units does survive. RagnaroK pushed back. 67 drones versus 59 SCVs. uThermal's got a base up in the bottom left-hand side. He's got a lot of command centers. He's landing a command center in the middle as well. I'd like to see mostly orbitals from uThermal in this game. I know it's risky, but in this kind of low economy, scrappy situation, I think that might be the best way to do it.
And getting the Planetary was huge there, but that felt like almost the overextension of RagnaroK in the end. Losing those Ultras, those Lings, of course, stuck around with the Bio kind of having Liberator support. I'm pleased to see more Vipers here from RagnaroK. They've been doing money for him in this game so far. Liberator harassment up here, a quick reaction from RagnaroK. Hasn't lost anything just yet, so this is moving that Queen around.
It's such a shame about that Yamato. That's got to be a mistake. I'm quite sure he thinks that's the Liberator range upgrade. It's a one starport on a reactor. And no doubt he is hoping to, of course, increase the range of those libs, get a few shots off against the Ultras before the fight even starts. That is not the case just yet. Nice little Marauder drop. Can take out a couple of workers. Not quite the high damage impact of an 8 Marine drop, but it can snipe tech and hatcheries a lot quicker.
Yeah, it doesn't do well against a bowl of Zerglings, but that's exactly right. That's what it's for. It's not for trading against Zerglings. It's for picking off structures, for picking off static defense, and not too bad against drones.
A lack of lib range, definitely a nuisance here. Luckily, this Liberator does find the opening where the Spore Crawler is not. Ooh. It's going to cause a bit of a nuisance on this base. But, I mean, the problem here is that there's a good chance uThermal doesn't realize that lib range was never upgraded. And that's one of the problems, because you're not going to realize until there's a huge fight and you go, wait a second, why did all these Liberators siege so close to their targets? And that's where it'll suddenly click and things do come crashing down around you. uThermal, not the highest SCV count, but a great base count. He's maxed out again. 139 army supply to 106 of Zerg. That is a huge Terran force.
Certainly is. Going to catch a few of those Banelings as well, so a good start for this fight for uThermal, coming closer to that hatchery. RagnaroK needs to respond. He does not want to lose another hatchery here. It is a pretty tense, close game at the moment. All those Corruptors coming from the right side for that Liberator field, but in come the Marines from the south. The Corruptors are going to go down. The Vipers go down as well.
Those libs quickly re-sieging here. That's a danger zone. I don't think the Ultras can come down there, mate.
The meat grinder. Now uThermal with a ton of bio left over. Looking to pick another fight here with RagnaroK. Going to have to leapfrog those Liberators further closer. closer to that hatchery. The Ultra's getting right in those lip fields.
The Marauder's doing some great tanking up front. The Banelings do all go down. That tank on the left-hand side did so much throughout both of those fights. RagnaroK, he's running out of steam. He's only got Ling Bane in the production tab. One Ultra, a handful of bruised Corruptors. That's not enough to deal with these lips.
Once the Lings are done, the Marines have got the Corruptors next, and uThermal takes game one there against RagnaroK. G'day, StarCraft fans. Remember us? Believe it or not, I'm actually the son of the commentator that was here before. He started a family in the studio during the downtime, and I've grown of age and become a commentator myself. We look very alike. And with me is Pig, also son of commentator.
2.0. Thankfully, our parents raised us to understand this game that is now ancient, yet we have memorized the names of the units, the players, and we are very excited to be hopping into the second map of this best of three. It was an action-packed game one, and we are going to be launching right on into map number 2. He's got to win the next 2 in a row to keep his chances here at IEM Katowice alive. In the bottom right, in the blue, he is RagnaroK.
And the top left, everything's fixed, and he's ready to play again. It is Team Liquid's uThermal.
A big break in the momentum for both of these players. As
it's basically like starting fresh again, basically, after all that time.
Yeah, well, and it's a best of one if you're from uThermal's perspective, but RagnaroK unable to lose a map, has to win 2 in a row. And it is, of course, Triton, a large map. One where, as we were talking about what feels like eons ago...
Our fathers were, at least.
We're going to keep it going? All right.
He ended up being really disappointed. He's like, maybe my son will be a really good player because he never made it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, just not, again, a second generation in a row, not good enough to play the game.
Yep, that's what they say. Those who can't play cast.
Yeah, exactly. Those who can't cast, type in Twitch chat.
Let it be known.
Let it be known. It is known. I have spoken.
So interesting areas on this map to pay attention to. If we do see Bio up against the Zerg, is this watchtower low ground in the middle of the map is really an important area, because as you push forwards, if you can control this area and get rid of the creep spread, there's lovely ledges on it. And also down towards the actual 4th base, there is a kind of area across the cliff where they can siege up on that high ground in the top left of our screen and reach over and cover, and you can start to kind of branch into the Zerg's territory. So that really seems to be the key to success on this map for the tank pushes. But you know what? We've seen our fair share of mech here as well. Those battlecruiser openings, very common. Hellions darting around the maps. Hellion Cyclone in the case of some players as well. All very interesting options.
It's definitely not a terrible map for it, but I think that if uThermal goes with that tried and true, the bio-tank composition, like you mentioned, there are some very good spots if you can nestle your tanks in there when you're starting to push the Zerg, especially if you can get the block off on that 3rd base on the on the edge of the map and force the Zerg to expand in a triangular pattern. That's a very strong push location for the Terran.
All right, the Reaper coming in, looking for some pickups here. It's going to take out a couple of Zergling hit points, a couple of drone hit points. One Zergling going to work way down to the 3rd. It does want to get rid of that SCV that's blocking the 3rd base. Let's see if he's going to start to retreat home. The Reaper going to come back, tries to get the Zergling tax. Will he get one? No! Great micro from RagnaroK. Not a single Zergling. It does go down. Very well played from the Zerg.
Very nice indeed. uThermal just going for a very normal opening here. A pretty conservative opening, actually. Just going for Hellions and getting a tech lab on that barracks so he can go switch it over with the starport, go towards Viking and Banshee. It's usually the case here for the Terran. This Reaper continuing to lay that hatchery. It's a solid 40 seconds late now. And RagnaroK didn't start off with an early Roach War in this game, so it's not like he has a, I'm going to punish you for delaying my hatchery play like he did in game 1.
And all the Zerglings survive once again. Man, they've seen some stuff. That Reaper has done a lot of damage. Hasn't really got any kills, though. That is a creep tumor. Exposed on the low ground, though. Bit of a mistake there from RagnaroK. Nice snipe.
Yeah, getting a little bit fresh with that creep tumor. Nice pick off there for uThermal. And we do have Cloak on the way, Banshee on the way. Directly into Banshees, by the way. Not buying any time for a Viking. And another creep tumor pick off. Always nice to get that in the early stages for the Terran. Really does slow down the defensive line of the Zerg.
Banshee follow-up is what we're going to be seeing here from uThermal. Reapers and Hellions just poking around, trying to keep up the pressure. Doesn't want to let RagnaroK sneak anything away here in this map. And it's one of the safest openings you can do as a Terran as well. as that just continues to move into that quick third command center. Cloak now on the way, as well as that Banshee's finishing up. Spore Crawler's going down well ahead of time. That's a bit of a risky Spore Crawler placement though from RagnaroK. It's right on the edge, so the Banshee can work its way around the inside and find surface area on those drones.
Certainly can, and Banshee number 1 is going across the map. We do have the extra bit of production going down for uThermal. It is going to be Bio here in this game. RagnaroK getting that Baneling nest down pat. It is going to be done very shortly here, so we can get some Banes up to handle the Terran army. uThermal just going to keep up these Hellions alive as long as he can, trying to slow down the Zerg, picking off creep trimmers, drones. Here's a dream scenario. Banshee number 1 going down the south side of the map here. There's no second Banshee hitting at the same time, so RagnaroK can concentrate his defenses. Spore's not done just yet, so he might be able to get a drone or 2 and then leave.
Yeah, not bad. Does take out 2 workers and evacs over the high ground. Gets between the rally points. Is going to find a few more workers.
Nice.
Trying to transfer. Nicely done.
Yeah, 4 drones here with the Banshee, and the Banshee not really getting it dealt with either. Very, very nice for the Terran. It's only a smaller bit of drone damage, but it's chip damage, right? Just like you would talk about in a fighting game. A little bit here and there can definitely stack up as time goes forward, especially at this level.
Yep, those Banshees just continue to zone here and stopping RagnaroK from properly transferring down to this base. And that lair has not finished, which means Overseer's unable to be made just yet. And things are looking a little bit weird there.
Yeah, the second Banshee showing up in the main base now. uThermal sort of cycling around into the watchtower here with those Hellions. The Banshee's still finding more damage here. That Queen exposed a little bit as well. She can fight back. The Banshee in detection range, just pulling back now. And yeah, this has been a little bit of an annoying bit of harassment for RagnaroK. Not game ending, of course, but still just a bit here and there. Yeah, he sees the double Evo going down. Terran's upgrades a little bit further along, as they generally are.
These Banshees of uThermal do survive for a long time. Finally does go down there, but not before. There is quite a few losses on the side of RagnaroK. More drones. Of course, the 1-1 advantage goes here to uThermal. That's going to open up a few potential timing attacks. It's always interesting to see the different sorts of games that come out with those upgrade timings, because it is so important. When you're talking about Marines and Zerglings, these kind of low damage units, but they attack very quickly. Every upgrade, every +1 damage actually makes a huge difference, and it really does help out there. The Spire is now on the way, so it's going to be Muto, Zergling, Baneling. RagnaroK, normally a player who loves rushing to Hive, but he is going to be going towards those Mutalisks this time around. I think it's a good choice, since the drops did so much damage to him in that game number 1.
Yeah, if you skip Hydras or you skip Mutalisks, you are kind of, relying on just sheer amounts of units to deal with the drop play, which RagnaroK, to be fair, did pretty well in game 1 for at least a while. The Marines drop here, and he is right on top of that with the Lings and Banelings. uThermal picks up the Marines and gets on out of there, loses a couple. Banshee does finally get dealt with there between the natural and the third base after getting a couple more drones. uThermal's worker count is actually quite solid here versus the Zerg. Obviously, RagnaroK's getting closer to that point when you don't really want any more drones, which you get in the mid-70s or even into 80 as he did last game. uThermal, also not too far away from being done with workers. He's getting that 4th base up right next to 3rd. A couple Banelings rolling in from RagnaroK, but looks like they're just going to die to the siege tank in that mineral line. Nothing really effective at all for the Zerg there.
And I think we might actually be seeing a swap into Widowmines. Very quick second factory here for uThermal, as well as a fast 4th command center. And his Marine drops just looking to pick off units where they can. And the creep spread is really not that impressive for RagnaroK. I mean, this series, it's been good aggression from uThermal, but nowhere near as much as in that map number 1, yet still RagnaroK's creep spread not really blossoming out into this map as much as you might want it to.
uThermal's Marine count over here nestled inside that mineral line just to make it tough for the Lings and Banelings to get surface area. He's going to try and drop it to the main to expose those Mutalisks on their lonesome. Mutas don't want to directly engage the Marines. They want the Lings and Banes there to help out. And meanwhile, uThermal in the main also pushing back creep again here, making a worse creep spread even worse as time goes forward with those Marines and scans.
A couple of Mutalisks do go down. I think it was maybe only just one, but uThermal, good target fire, good focusing as normal. And the Thors are on the way. The Drilling Claws upgrade is coming, Widowmine's coming out, and a 4th command center already floating out on the location. uThermal here wants to get a parade push going. He knows there's a long time till that Hive comes out. And these Mutas, they're good for shutting down drops, but if he can just rally across the map, he's going to have an overwhelming Terran push. And remember that 2-2 upgrade, very nicely timed for uThermal. It is about 30-40 seconds ahead of the Zerg's 2-2.
It is quite far along. We've got a small pocket of Marines out here as well to try and catch those Mutalisks, but RagnaroK, quick response there, paying attention, thankfully for the Zerg player. And we do have that second factory kicking in with Drilling Claws. uThermal even squeezed out a Thor, taking the Mutalisk threat very seriously. But keep in mind that the Widowmines aren't just great against the Mutalisk harassment. Also, when he does begin that Braid push, RagnaroK is just on Ling Bane on the ground. And Marines with Widowmines are absolutely devastating that ground army if RagnaroK doesn't control very, very perfectly.
The Mutas and the Zerglings regain control of the center of the map, but the creep spread has been massively delayed there. It is, though, starting to blossom out on the edges, and that is why it's about time uThermal got moving. He's got a 5th command center on the way, tons of Marines and mines, a couple of Thors as well. He's going to start moving out across this map. Just a single dropship on the left-hand side, looking to create some threat. RagnaroK looking for some huge backstabs. A massive Ling Bane in the top right of the map. That 4th base so exposed.
Certainly is. That is so many Banelings. He could absolutely bust down this planetary if he wanted to commit, and he shall. Down goes the planetary, forces a cancel on the 5th. And uThermal is pushing to the north side. Not going to let RagnaroK get away with it for free.
Those drops starting to move forward. The one on the bottom left is down there. It's going to slowly get cornered, but he's moving forward. He's within hitting distance of the 5th. uThermal's 3-3 now on the way as well. He's rebuilding at least one of those command centers that went down. And there we go, those Widowmines, a very present danger. You got to be real wary of those as RagnaroK. The Banelings actually coming in a nice little spread, and quite a few of those Widowmines bruised. There's not too many Marines left over here.
These Widowmines getting their charges off. Oh, a miscontrol from uThermal. The Marines walk straight into Baneling fire there. And uThermal's push gets cleaned up. RagnaroK actually just way too good of a trade. uThermal doesn't want to play it out. GG. And RagnaroK tying things up after the break.
Things fell apart there very suddenly for the Terran. The Zerg just pulling things together. Banelings into the planetary, dealing with the drop in the bottom left and crashing through that Widowmine spread. You know, uThermal didn't really have many Marauders up front with that, and we saw a bit of unfortunate luck with how those Widowmines were tracking. They simply weren't firing when needed to. There is a little bit of randomness with the way Widowmines work because they'll track onto the closest target coming at them. If that target gets shot down before they fire, which takes about a second and a half, they're going to start tracking onto another target that's close by. Sometimes it just so happens your Marines keep on gunning down the targets the Widowmines are aiming for, and right when you need a big Widowmine explosion on the Banelings, they're all kind of sitting there just changing targets and not actually firing. We saw, of course, uThermal, his medevacs misplaced. About 20-30 Marines running into Banelings there, trying to get inside the medevacs. A big mistake in that final battle.
Yeah, an uncharacteristic micro error there for someone whose biocontrol has been legendary over the many, many years of his career. And you can see that he's visibly frustrated with how Game 2 went, but a consummate professional can delete that from his mind and reset the palette for Game 3.
A good game for RagnaroK there. Definitely going to have a little bit more confidence. Definitely would want to be pressing that creep spread out a little bit more if we see another macro game in Game 3, as I think that's going to give him a lot more comfort as he progresses throughout. But he was much more stable there, looking a bit more controlled on Triton. Very curious, of course, what that third map will be. It turns out it is going to be Zen.
Wow. This one snuck on in there. We haven't seen any Zen in the broadcast.
This is the veto map, man. These are best of threes. Yeah. Each player gets 2 vetoes. Zen has not made it into a single series that we've broadcast on the mainstream, I don't think, this tournament.
We also learned not too long ago that Zen is going to be in the next season, so it'll be vetoed again.
But I actually don't mind Zen.
No, I mean, in all seriousness. And
it's so different. It's so different to the normal maps, right? It's hard to adapt to.
It is very different, but I actually feel like, particularly for Terran fans out there, it's a pretty good map for TVZ. Like, there's a lot of choke points in there, which Terrans love. Big ledges to the edge of the main base, depending on where the Zerg spawns, to be the left or the right of the main base, for Reapers to sneak on in and to sneak on out. It's a really good map for BC openers as well. You got lots of dead space between the main and the natural to be able to park that BC where nothing can hit it unless you have an air unit.
Tanks enjoy the ledges. I mean, the whole middle of this map is just choked up by ledges. There are these paths through the middle, but they're incredibly narrow, so small. Siege tanks can't fit through them until you mine out the mineral walls. So really cool to see what's going to happen in the next map. uThermal up against RagnaroK. It's 1-1 for both of the players. And one more map to go through to the final qualification match here in this bracket. Up here in the top right-hand side in the blue, it is RagnaroK.
And in the bottom left, represented by Team Liquid, the last remaining Liquid player. The Terran in the red, he is uThermal. Marek Schlappy, looking to put the Schlappy down on the Zerg.
Slip, slap, slop. That is the way he does like to do it. Lots of medevac drops all over the place and just kind of moving his way through the map. I've seen uThermal play this map before, and with it was with his traditional kind of 8-barrack style, similar to what we saw on Ephemeron at the first game of this series. You know, bio pushing constantly across, just one tank building at a time. So wouldn't be surprised if we see the same thing here. And as we said, the base is a little bit exposed to air harassment. Things like battle cruisers can come in, but the drops as well, working their way around the backside of this map, can be very, very painful.
Yeah, absolutely not wrong. It's a pretty solid map for it, but I feel like when I've seen Terran play on this map, it's been more like I mentioned, sort of like the BC opener. Just seems incredibly powerful. Even though the mech gets messed with because you have that small choke point in the middle, mech can be incredibly powerful, especially when you get to those certain terrains. Mapu's showing us the rocks in the middle rather than minerals in the middle that do make it awkward because you can only really fit the small units through there. Tanks don't fit, Thors don't fit, Ultras don't fit, but that ledge as well, like that cliff space with all the shrubbery around it, a brilliant spot to put your tanks when you're pushing the base there. So pretty interesting map in general, and just very different than the norm.
Expansion now on the way here for uThermal. Overlords, of course, for RagnaroK, keeping an eye out for proxy barracks, something that uThermal has been known for in the past. Yeah, CV Scout for uThermal. Gonna come across, will block the third hatchery. Interesting to see, RagnaroK really has never wanted to run the Zerglings across the map to try and punish this if the Reaper does head over there. And RagnaroK seems to just be saying, you know what, I'll just build my Overlords a little bit earlier. In the previous game, this time he will send the drone over.
Yeah, you really don't want a third anywhere else than here as Zerg. You can take the one out the front, but then that means that you can't really block off that mineral gap to your natural because, you know, you want to be able to drone saturate that base as quickly as possible, and that means that you're a little bit more vulnerable to Hellion run-bys, which is normally something in Zerg you can shut down. Now this time he is paying the Reaper tax. You know, RagnaroK taking a bit of damage on his Lings and actually losing a couple.
Oh, the creep tumor as well! The first one as well. That was a greedy creep tumor from RagnaroK. You are not allowed to do that. That Reaper poke back in more as a force of habit than anything else for uThermal, where he says, yeah, this forces you to make sure that you can't put the creep tumor down immediately. You've got to wait till your Zerglings are guarding it. And then I'm sure his eyes lit up when he saw that and he said, oh, you greedy Zerg player, you're not allowed to put that down until you're in position. Got a nice snipe, slows down the creep spread, and that's very important in this matchup. We always talk about creep spread because you just can't engage a Zerg player with their fast melee units on that creep. They simply close the distance too quickly. Terran units, long range, high firepower, but very fragile. They just can't stand up to the Zerg once they're in melee.
RagnaroK not taking any chances here on this map. One more map needs to be won for each player. This is an elimination map for either of these players, so he's going to get Overlord speed here. Extra bit of gas and minerals invested in it, but it is for safety. The Terran will not really get away with any tech, and there's that fusion core going down. Like I said, a pretty strong opener on this map. We're seeing medevacs first here from uThermal though, so definitely a different version of this opener.
I really like it. I love Hellion drop into BC. Really cool adjustment. The Overlord speed, of course, does see the edge of the fusion core, and the medevac as well. Which definitely gives the heads up there. And these Hellions ready for the drop, but like you said, great space in the back. You can also drop in the natural. You don't have to go to the back corner of the main. You can actually just drop here to the left-hand side, right where our lovely observer is showing. Thank you very much, Mapu. And Baneling Nest is blocking off that front entrance here. Overlord spread reasonably well around the bases. It looks like the Lings should be in position in the main base.
RagnaroK seems very, very prepared here as uThermal heads towards that drop. He's got a Spore Crawler as well, so the medevac can't dive too deep to save the Hellions or drop them in that mineral line. BC #1 on the way here for uThermal as well, and looks like he's just going to pull out of this. It's a little bit too risky. Oh, cute play there, putting some low ground Hellions to secure the high ground ones.
Nice micro. Just going to look for a few waves of fire on the Zerglings, takes a few of them out.
Yeah, free damage.
Yeah, any chance for uThermal to micro, get those little edges, he'll always take it. Overlord's coming on back through the main base. A couple of unupgraded Marines, just going to start to whittle them down.
Armory coming up here for uThermal, so with the medevac, there could actually be a BC Hellbat attack here from uThermal, and that is something that's pretty uncommon, but pretty spicy against what we're seeing from the Zerg, which is heavy Ling, Banelings, not that many Queens.
Yeah, and I mean, could always unload these 4, turn them all into Hellbats in the main while attacking the natural on the third base with BCs and Hellions as well. I think that BC is going to teleport right across. I think you've called it there, Maynard. uThermal does not have a lot of other things on the way. Doesn't really have anything like a third CC just yet. And he's coming right on in with these Hellbats in this medevac. That natural base is under assault. Hellbats on the front as well. That BC, where is it going to teleport to? I think it's going to go right on top of those Queens.
That is a few Queens right there. 6 Queens on that front line with a bit of energy for transfusions.
They're clumped.
Oh, they are clumped, Pig, and those Hellbats looking to put on that splash damage. The Banelings on the left side. Split from uThermal on the Hellbats. No medevac over here to assist as the Hellbats and the natural get cleaned up. The medevac does get picked off as well. And the BC starts to carpet bomb through, picking off drones. This is a very committed attack from uThermal, so if RagnaroK can take small amount of damage, he can absolutely be in a good spot.
Incredible micro by RagnaroK so far. Those Queens did a full circuit of that mineral line to evade the Hellbats while trying to defend elsewhere at the same time. But also good prioritization by uThermal. He says, you know what, let's just go up into the main base. And the natural has taken out 10 workers, continuing to pick off units. Really good movement by RagnaroK, though. Just so impressed with how he's handled this situation.
And that BC has that dead space that I was talking about earlier to go down. RagnaroK getting a Spire. Second BC tactical jumping in here. Looking to try and muscle through those Queens with just extra DPS and so many hit points. That's a lot of Queens, though. uThermal might just have to tag out that hurt one. Baneling Bus going through that base there. He doesn't actually do a ton of damage. He just gets the wall.
Yeah, that's actually great for uThermal. He was very safe with his Hellions on the backside of that, and a few more workers going down here. It's so awkward for these Queens to rotate between these 3 bases. You called this at the start, Maynard. You said the dead space on this map means BC harass can be very frustrating to deal with.
If you don't have flying units, you actually can't hit them. So the BCs are just flying around, doing more and more damage, getting more and more drones, and they have tactical jump to return back home just in case. And it looks like it's not even needed here. uThermal just pulling back, happy with the 14+ drone kills from these BCs. Hellbat's looking to assist again, and he is battle meching behind this. He's been making cyclones, Magfield's on the way, Yamato's on the way. So the Bioman gonna try his mech shorts on and see how they fit. And this is a good map for it, Pig, I gotta say.
The Spire is coming up at a pretty good time. But despite RagnaroK's initial fantastic hold, the follow-up battlecruiser damage has managed to keep him down. And what is the pattern we've seen in this series? It is uThermal in the Zerg player's face and the creep spread just being so far back. And once again, it's the same situation here. This creep only now leaving the third base, the fourth base only now going down for the Zerg. The Zerg player, especially against mech, wants to be up a base, wants to be ahead in economy here. But uThermal keeping it on par. 3 battlecruisers out, a 4th on the way. Yamato almost finished. Magfield almost finished as well. Does have to be careful though. Corruptors are hitting the field.
Certainly. I mean, when you go battle, BC open into battle mech, it does usually force out Corruptors and Roaches, and that's a relatively expensive army for the Zerg. Even though it does do the job, it does slow down things like Tier 3 for RagnaroK. You know, at this point, he was starting, his Infestation Pit was done, he was going towards Hive, all that sort of stuff, but he's going to have to chill in Tier 2 for a little while longer. 3 BCs fighting the Corruptors over this base, going to drop some Yamatos as it finishes, getting 3 Corruptor kills, and then he just tags out.
Yeah, he's going to try and just kite his way down, but realizes, okay, too much damage, not worth taking that trade. Teleports out. That's a good hold for RagnaroK. If he lost that 4th base, ooh, that would be a disaster. His economy in the next few minutes would not be what he wants it to be. Instead, though, the double upgrades are on the way. He's got the Infestation Pit coming in. Lots of Ravager Lingbane to complement these Corruptors. And that's going to do very well for RagnaroK. uThermal, of course, with the Battle Mech style, massively skimping on upgrades. Only +1 armor starting just now.
Does have a lot of Hellions though. No blue flame on these units, so they're not as effective as they should be. Oh, they're so close to the Banelings. The Banelings are going to connect, but no Baneling speed. It's just barely been started here for RagnaroK. So the Cyclones and Hellions are very, very threatening. A lot of BCs showing up as well with Yamatos ready for those Corruptors. The Cyclones also keeping those BCs safe. 1 Corruptor goes down. In comes RagnaroK. Can he push back uThermal?
Those Cyclones adding so much anti-air damage. And those battlecruisers just so tanky. What a timing attack 4 battle cruisers, a pack of Hellbats and Cyclones, and overwhelming the Corruptors. There's nothing left that shoots up.
Exactly, there's technically Corrosive Piles, but without the Corruptors, he has no convincing answer to the BCs. That hatchery is dead. RagnaroK with the Hail Mary going across the map here to try and do anything to uThermal to slow him down, but uThermal's rally points are good. He's down here with enough units to hold on. The BC even to assist. He's eating a bile on it, but the BC can actually fight back. As you mentioned, they don't really shoot up.
That BC so low, does teleport it out. Nicely done preserving those battle cruisers. One of the most important things. Oh, Zergling's getting in. Those SCVs have got to get out of there. A quick mineral walk. Loses about 7 or 8 of them, but the Hellbats hold firm on the ramp.
And even though his worker count's not amazing, it's 57 against 75, he is going to get the Spire. So however many Corruptors are out, that is going to be it for RagnaroK. He doesn't have a Hydra Den, he doesn't have an Infestation Pit, he doesn't have a way to deal with the BCs other than Corruptors. So getting that Spire is a big deal if uThermal can take a good fight against the Corruptors that are out now.
Oh, lots of drones going down there as well. RagnaroK transfers to the new base on the left-hand side that's just finished. And another Corruptor falls to Yamato. Oh, this is so expensive.
Certainly is. One last Corruptor about to join in. The Battlecruiser tags out. uThermal, I think he's lost 1 BC in this game, but still a lot of them are still alive. There we go. Good call, Maynard. And look at those trades, Pig. Did you see the resources lost for both players? Massive differences here with the Terran being way more efficient.
Those battle cruisers paying off in a big way here. uThermal has a 4th base up now. Hellions coming to the left-hand side. The units are close by, but they're not quite on top of it.
Blue Flame just finished.
Sliding in those Zerglings. Oh man, even focus fires the Zerglings. Does get quite a few of them.
That was actually a decent hold there from RagnaroK, only losing a few drones. Did lose a cluster of Lings, but they're relatively inexpensive. RagnaroK just trying to stabilize here. uThermal not taking his foot off the gas pedal. He is just always in the Zerg's face. Another Hellion run by here. 5 Hellions going for the drone line.
Oh wow, once again, Hellbats being surrounded by Zerglings. The Zerglings actually doing an okay job of dealing with this.
Pretty good defense, honestly. Very nicely done by RagnaroK. But look at that Corruptor count, it's just not there. That is a fleet of battle cruisers, Pig. That's almost as many battle cruisers as there are Corruptors. RagnaroK just starting more now in production.
Yeah, 5 battle cruisers is huge. They don't have any upgrades, it's just +1 armor, but that's all they need right now. There's not many upgrades for RagnaroK either. He needs to defend his 4th base, but right now he's running, tail between his legs, just a few Ravagers and Corruptors. That's nothing. There's next to no units there.
That's my line, but that's okay. I'll let you have it this one time as uThermal keeps pushing forward. RagnaroK just running out of steam here. Yamato's on all the Corruptors, and that's it. GG, uThermal stays alive and moves to the qualification match.
A smashing final win there after a disappointing map number 2. And the Dutch Terran player, he's living up to his legacy of once again going through to that group stage here. It might just be his year, maybe. Finally, after so many times barely missing out, he might make it through to that top stage. It's fantastic to see him go here against RagnaroK. Of course, he does have one more match ahead of him.
And what an
it's
opponent.
A big one.
Yeah, Trap next on the menu for uThermal. So a prize that a lot of people probably wouldn't want to win. But there he is staying alive and hopefully can show us a good games against Trap. We're going to take a short break and when we return, more StarCraft. Do not go away.